What's going on, y'all? Five Sports Talk back at it with another video, talking some NBA, talking about the Phil Jackson, Carmelo Anthony situation, fiasco, whatever you want to call it. Here to break it down for you guys, give you guys my insight on the situation from both sides, from Phil's side and then from Melo's side. But first and foremost, if you guys don't know about the situation and the story, the real quick 2-minute version of it is one of Phil Jackson's confidants recently came out, one of his former assistant coaches, I believe, and said that Carmelo Anthony had basically outlived his usefulness in New York. And so that opened a whole Pandora's box about if Carmelo Anthony is going to be traded from the Knicks. So then reporters started asking Melo if he had heard about this, and Melo said, "Oh, I don't know anything about this," or "I had not heard about it." And basically, since it spread so much in the media, Phil Jackson had to address it, so he called Carmelo Anthony to his office, and they talked it out, and Phil basically asked Melo if he wanted to stay in New York, and Carmelo Anthony said yes, he does. And here we are. So that's really the situation. One thing I quickly forgot to point out is that Carmelo Anthony has a no-trade clause in his contract. So when he signed his contract with the New York Knicks back in 2014, he had requested a no-trade clause be put in his contract, which basically says he cannot be traded to any team by the Knicks without his permission. So when Phil Jackson sat down with Carmelo and asked him if he wanted to be in New York, he asked him because he wanted to know if he had any team he wanted to be traded to, and Carmelo Anthony quickly shot that down and said, "No, I want to stay in New York." So basically, Phil Jackson can't trade him because Carmelo Anthony won't waive his no-trade clause. So with that being said, this entire situation would obviously not have happened if the Knicks were winning. Clearly, they're not. Another underwhelming season for the New York Knicks. They are well below 500 after getting off to a decently good start. And Phil Jackson's tenure as the president of basketball operations of the New York Knicks continues to get worse year by year. Really, guys, outside of drafting Kristaps Porzingis, which was a great pick, I will give Phil that, he has not done anything right for the Knicks, and most recently now giving a broken down old Joakim Noah $70+ million was another joke of a contract. And then getting the Derrick Rose trading for Derrick Rose. Clearly, we are seeing that that experiment is not going to work, and Derrick Rose is probably going to walk at the end of the season. You're talking about the Derek Fisher hire. That was a failure. Trading Tyson Chandler away, that was looked at as a failure by a lot of people. So Phil Jackson is basically admitting here, I've made another mistake. Really, he should have never given Carmelo Anthony that contract, and that's basically what Phil is trying to do. He is trying to trade Carmelo Anthony before Anthony becomes untradeable. And by untradeable, I mean, look, Carmelo is already on the back end of his career. Who knows how many years he has left, but it's not that many. And he's had a lot of back problems. He's had a lot of injuries. And before Melo becomes basically, like his confidant said, useless, and a lot of teams won't want him, Phil is trying to get up underneath that contract and trade Melo so he can at least get something out of it. Maybe a couple first-round picks, some young players so he can build around. This is Phil Jackson saying that he made a mistake giving Carmelo Anthony that massive 5-year, $123 million contract back in 2014. Now, on the other side, the reason Carmelo Anthony is not waiving his no-trade clause and has refused to waive his no-trade clause is because obviously he does want to stay with the Knicks, but in a larger picture, he is basically admitting he does not value winning as much as people think he values winning. And that's basically what it is. He does not care about it as much. Look, to Melo, he's won a gold medal. He's been an all-star. He might go to the Hall of Fame. Who knows? He wants to live in New York for the rest of his career. He wants to be the alpha dog. He wants to be the main guy, still average 20 points per game. And I think he's come to grips with the fact that he might never win a championship. And you know what? He's okay with that. He does not want to, ring chase, or he does not want to go and find a team where he can win a championship. So really, his values and his priorities are not for winning and are not about winning. And so for that reason, he wants to stay with the Knicks. Look, this is a guy who had the most success in his career with the Denver Nuggets. I'm talking about on a winning level when he went to the Western Conference Finals. and he's still forced to trade to a New York Knicks team that at that time was still nowhere close to better than his former team. But he still wanted to go to New York because clearly Carmelo doesn't value winning as much as a lot of people think he does. Okay, it's just not important to him, and I'm not knocking the guy. That's just what it is for him. So be it. Okay, but that is what Carmelo Anthony's priorities are. He does not care about winning. That's why he's not going to waive his no trade clause. Here's how I look at it. Something has got to give in this marriage, okay? With the way it's looking like, it looks like it is heading towards a divorce. Look, Carmelo Anthony still has a couple of years left on his deal, but Phil Jackson is either going to try and force a trade by, I would say, this end of this season. Definitely by the summertime, he's going to try and force Carmelo Anthony to waive his no trade clause and trade him, or Phil Jackson will just leave as the president of basketball operations of the New York Knicks. One of those two things is probably going to happen, because as far as if I'm Melo, I don't know why Melo even wants to stay there if it clearly means that he's not wanted, you know? But like I mentioned, I get it. He wants to stay in New York. He does not want to change his playing style. Even Coach Jeff Hornacek is getting frustrated with Melo because Melo's still that ball-centric, ball-stopper, ISO-only type of guy. He does not want to change positions. He does not want to go within the flow of the offense. Like I said, he's got a lot of bad habits. And you know what? He's got spoiled and happy in New York, and that's just what he wants to do. He wants to stay there. And the Knicks are not going to win as long as Carmelo Anthony feels like he does not want to change. But you know what? Like I said, I am putting a lot of the blame on Phil Jackson, because Phil Jackson gave Carmelo Anthony that contract when he was supposed to be worried more about building the New York Knicks. And like I mentioned, outside of drafting Kristaps Porzingis, has not done anything else worthy for the Knicks. And at this time, he should have been building around Kristaps Porzingis, and instead he gets two ball-centric, ball-dominant guys in Carmelo Anthony and Derrick Rose, who hindered Kristaps Porzingis' development. So really, I have to put a large portion of the blame on Phil Jackson as well. He is not excused from this at all. So really, to me, this marriage is headed towards a divorce for sure. Either Carmelo Anthony's going to realize that, you know what, I'm really not wanted here. Let's actually force a trade, or let's waive this no trade clause, or Phil Jackson is just going to call it a career as a president probably and just go back to LA or wherever else he was at. So really, that's just my thoughts. That's what I think is going to happen. Look, the New York Knicks don't seem like they're going to be headed towards winning anytime soon. It looks like Phil Jackson, again, is going to have to do the proper rebuild, which he should have done before, instead of trying to do this like mini rebuild that he was trying to do. But those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Who or what side are you guys on in this situation, Phil Jackson or Carmelo, or are you on neither? Leave a comment down below, and as always, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.